And welcome to another episode of Nights at the Round Table. We are doing some in-betweeny episodes leading up to season 2. We're going to recap season 1 and talk about stories, messages that you guys sent us that really affected us. Because if you don't know, we actually read all of the DMs. We read all the emails. We read all the YouTube comments. We read everything and are extremely humbled and grateful that you guys are listening and care about it. So we thought, what better way than to just give some amazing moments of season 1 before we drop season 2. With that said, anyone can start. Does anyone have one just fresh off the mind, off the dome?
Do you want to introduce us as humans?
Yeah,
You always introduce us.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You always introduce
Well,
us.
just
There's kind of different rules now. It's an in-between.
I know, so
Yeah.
clearly we don't get introductions.
All right, so we got Bobise all the way to the far
That's
right,
better.
who is
Elise?
still single.
Okay.
We got the
there we
queen
go.
over
Wow.
here,
Bit of a
Angela
extra.
Johnson.
Still a
Intro.
comedian.
Be real, still
Married.
hooked and hitched.
Look at you go. So proud.
Yes.
And everything is going well on that front. So, stories.
Yeah. It's
Season
been
1.
cool.
It was season 1. We are legit so grateful. I
Mhm.
think at this moment we have over 40,000 downloads, and it's pretty amazing because at the beginning I literally thought, who's gonna listen? Nobody
My mom.
cares.
That's it.
Like many things that you probably would do before you start off, you're afraid of failure. Everybody is, no matter
Mhm.
what it is. Starting a new job, starting a new anything, is failure is one of those real things
Yeah.
that kind of prevents us from doing anything.
Yeah.
So in the same way, I was scared as hell. But here's another thing that you need to learn. Whenever you do set off and do something, it's always good to do it with a team of people that you absolutely love and believe
Yeah.
in, because that helps
Ding.
the fear go away. But thank you for everybody who listened. And yeah,
Why don't you
any
go first?
stories?
Yeah, you go first. What's been your favorite parts?
Well, it's the recent thing. So I got a message from this girl. I don't have my phone
Oh,
with me.
yeah.
And which I think Bobise will probably share her story a little later on in the second season. But we were discussing some stuff, and there was like an injection of faith that was needed. Again, season to season,
Yeah.
you need this new faith to like do something new. You need a new injection of faith to believe that it can happen. So I get this message from this girl who writes and says, "Hey, just caught up on all the podcasts, and I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for doing it, because I found my way to Oasis Church because of you guys," which
Yeah.
is where Bobise is a pastor at.
Mhm.
And now I'm going, and oh my God,
Yeah.
Pastor Julian's sermon was so fire. Thank you so much. And it's freaking rare. Like, that was one of the, like, I guess, conversion stories where somebody actually took what we were saying and found themselves at a church
Yeah.
because of this thing. And not that, that's where you need to find yourself, but it was pretty crazy that it happened. And it literally, I text Bobise, I text Julian, and I was like, look, man, this is real. And so you know who you are, who wrote in.
Yeah.
You're amazing. Thank you for writing that in. And it totally gave me an injection of hope and of faith, and Bobise too, and
Yep.
Pastor Julian. And
What did Julian say?
Did
He
he say he
goes,
wants to sponsor
"Sheesh."
us? Yeah, he wants to sponsor us.
says,
as the church. What?
"Sheesh."
Yeah, it's been so cool. Like the support I've felt from not just Julian, but our church. And you never really know. You coming and starting to do this, my fear wasn't necessarily that anybody would listen. It almost was that people would listen, because we're so open with our lives on here, and we've been not accidentally open, but sometimes accidentally open. And we were recording so much of this first season before anyone had listened to one episode that it was really easy for us to feel like we're just doing this without the cameras and without the recording
Right.
devices. And we always just wear headphones like this. So that was fine. You know what I mean? But when people started listening, when people started responding, I was like, I would start remembering what I said in episodes down the track. And I was like, oh, crap. Like, what happens when they hear that? But the support has been incredible. And Julian has been so supportive in my church community and my family, and all of our friends have been. You've always got your strangers on the internet, going back to the WTF episode, that like want to tear you down or whatever. But by and large, it's been amazing. So when I heard that story of that girl with Oasis, it was so cool, because I think one of my favorite moments of season 1 was coming back to Julian, being able to talk about him so much and tell y'all like how great he is or bits of wisdom that he'd given me. But then really for everyone listening and who are subscribed and our viewers to have a podcast where they got to hear from him when Manny, you interviewed him, that was a cool experience because I was getting almost as many responses to me on that pod than the ones that I was actually on because people finally got to like, so, by and large, the comments to me was like, oh, like I get it now. Like I get it. I get your relationship with him and the pastor, big brother, friend vibes. Like he encompasses that. So that was so encouraging for me. And who else? There was someone else that got like a message about it at the church thing. Like what was that? You, Ange, that got from a viewer, or was that?
Oh,
I think it's become.
do you want me to go?
Yeah, you can jump in whenever you want. I don't know if you like. That was an invitation. If you'd like, you can decline.
It was a good segue, but
thank you. It's fine.
Come on, man.
Oh,
It's the headphones. We're not used to it.
It's yeah. We're in a different location and it threw
I
me
know.
off.
We have
I'm
a brick wall behind
dehydrated.
us.
I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah.
We are in New York City right now. I'm so sorry. We didn't change.
Typically,
yeah.
we have a brick wall.
Yeah.
It's just not
We built this.
But this one is
Yeah.
actual.
actual brick wall.
Oh yeah, this isn't like a wallpaper.
No.
Yeah.
This is an
No,
actual
we're in
brick
New
wall.
York City right now recording. We're gonna do the first 4 episodes here in New
We're
York
in the
City.
city of Olivia Benson.
Forgot to tell you, but it's been amazing. Okay, go. We are in New York. We have the New York vibes. We're feeling it.
All the
Vibin'.
vibes.
So, season 1 was a great experience, and like Elise said, it just felt very natural because it's just us here, and to be able to forget that there's a microphone recording the words that we're saying and the cameras, then you can just be honest like you're with your friends, and then later on go, oh, oops.
There was a couple times I was like, "Hey, Manny, I need you to go back and edit these details out for this person or this."
Yeah.
He
I
loved
only
it.
did that once.
Yeah, but then you didn't want to, and I made Angela like back me up in it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ange.
But I would say some of my favorite feedback from people has been that this has become like their church,
Yeah.
listening to this podcast. And one comment specifically, someone was saying, I haven't been to church in 3 years, and I found this podcast, and this has become like my church and their reconnection to God, which is ultimately what we all want to do, is just lead you to God as we find our way there ourselves, you know, and constantly asking questions. And I related to that person a lot because for a while, I mean, I've been going to church since I was a teenager, but in the last 5 years since I've started my deconstruction phase and started to ask questions and really figure out what I believe and what has just been church culture that I took on as truth. And when I started in that season, it felt very lonely, and I finally started finding community who was on the same path that I was. And it was so helpful for me. And I found that in like the Liturgist podcast and in certain friends around me. And God has blessed me with an amazing family community of what you see here and a few others that are not here at the table with us. And so to hear that we have become that for someone else is very special to me because my husband's water.
I'm so
That
sorry.
was Manny's
That was
sparkling
my fault.
water.
That was Christy.
Sponsored by seltzer water.
Because I yearned for that, and I wanted
Yeah.
that when I was looking for truth and reconnection. So that
great.
was something
Yeah.
that stood out to me in this first season.
Absolutely. I feel the same exact way. Like, I think one of the coolest things, well, there's several things that I really love about the first season. One was there's so many people that's always heard me talk about you guys, talk about our dynamic, like the great conversations we're having, and always wish like, hey, I wish I could bring you over so you could hear this and you could be a part of this. And I feel like with this pod, people have been able to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at like the comments and people are just like, hey, I'm finding myself asking the same questions. These are the same topics. And then even using the podcast as a conversation starter with their
Totally.
kids.
Mm.
You know, like that's amazing. Like we're talking about sex and like that's awkward as hell conversation with your parents. You listen to the podcast, you're like, hey, so what do you think about that podcast? which we actually got a video
there's-
of
I was
that.
gonna say
have
that
the
mom
video.
and
Which
that
was
daughter.
like,
They
yeah.
were
She's
so
she's a
cool.
total supporter. She sent the video. Her and her daughter
Thank you for
have sent
sending.
a couple of
Multiple.
videos of them having conversations with the podcast.
So
and-
cool.
And then, you
Oh
know,
my
the
god,
thing-
are we establishing curriculum, you guys?
Can you imagine?
that would be
Nope.
crazy. Sex 101.
Be real, Manny Fresh,
Be
Queen,
real.
and Bobies.
Bobies.
It's written in full-on slang.
Oh, so many
the
things
thing
going
that's
through my
always
head.
the thing that I'm thinking about sex now. The thing that's always surprising is how much value people place on your story.
Yeah.
Like that is always crazy. Like even when I get the chance to travel places and speak, it's like people value like your ideas about God
Mhm.
when I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, like as long as I've been walking with Jesus, like I feel like I don't know him, you know, in a lot of ways. And so the fact that we're having these conversations and people are finding connection in it and
Right.
significance and value in it. And it's amazing. And my favorite episode that we did was the lie the church sold you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the feedback that not only I got when it first released, but the feedback I still get now.
Yeah.
Like I get so many people that are like, thank you so much. Like I'm starting this deconstruction of my faith and you guys are reminding me that I'm not alone and I'm not crazy.
Mm.
And honestly, like the path of deconstruction is one of like the loneliest paths ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And knowing that you have somebody or knowing that you're not the only one is almost the thing that can keep you. Like
Yeah.
for me, that when I first started that path, it was William, who everyone I'm sure loves. And you got to meet him on the episode 7 or 8. And to me, he was that person. And
Yeah.
so it makes me so happy to think that this podcast is that someone for somebody out there
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
going through that right now. Like that's a game changer for them.
Yeah.
And I've loved getting every message about that.
Yeah.
So
That's really cool.
I that brings me to another story. There's this guy who hits me up and he's like, "Hey man, I don't believe in God. I don't go to church, but I just want to thank you because my wife did, and
Wow.
she stopped going to church. But then I found your podcast and shared it with her, and now she's back with God.
Whoa.
So I just wanna say
didn't know
thank you.
that.
So you got somebody who don't. He's like, I listen to your podcast too, but he don't believe in God. He don't, and not that this is you have to believe in God to
Sure.
listen to it, but he
Well, the
is
whole
like,
point
I
of
don't
this is
believe,
that
I
you
don't
belong.
whatever, but he acknowledged that his wife was better when she was with God than where she was at,
Sheesh.
Mm.
enough to be like, oh, she needs this podcast. Let me give it to her because
Mm.
she needs it. And now she's back on fire with God. And he's
Wow.
like, thank you. Somebody who don't believe in God. I'm like, bruh, that is legit stories that I want. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully he hears this. Amen. I love you, dude.
I think it's cool. I think that's the whole point of this podcast is that whether you believe, whether you don't, wherever you're at in your journey of deconstruction, reconstruction, constructing for the first time, there's a place for you. And so multiple people that wrote in were like, this kind of feels like church for me right now. We've got a seat at the table for that.
Mm.
People that have been hurt by just people. We've got a
Mm.
seat, whether you've been divorced or single again or single for the first time or in a marriage that's great or bad. There's a seat for you. And so I think what's so cool is that people are finding their seat at the table.
Yeah.
It's not like we've pulled up one chair and we're like, if you're that kind of person, then you get to sit here. It's like we want everyone to find their own chair and we want them to find their own seat at this table, and it's big enough for everyone. And I think that when I was being able to share my story about divorce, and that has been kind of overwhelming for me with the response we've gotten back to the realization that it's given people permission to grieve, but also permission to rebuild and permission to not just make someone else an enemy. And maybe that sounds weird, but I got a few responses from women that said that when we did the love, what do you do when it's gone? Which might have been my favorite just from a very personal standpoint. I think it was the most I'd shared my story. And that was the one I was thinking about when people would, at the first few episodes, be like, I can't wait to hear more. And I was like, are you sure? It's going to be fine. But I think women were writing in and saying they had always seen their ex-husband or ex-boyfriend as the enemy, as someone that was terrible. And while that might have been true for people found their responsibility in the end of a relationship. And I think that is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And so to hear that, not just like I relate to your story, not just I've been divorced too, not just I'm on dating apps and it sucks, but like I'm actually now in therapy, a few people said, because you guys talk about therapy so often. I'm in therapy dealing with my unforgiveness.
Wow.
Someone did the Enneagram test after our Enneagram thing,
Yeah.
and she said she's like read all the books. She read the Richard Roll book on it, has been doing some study,
Wow.
and now is in therapy because she was a 3, and all the things we were saying when Ange thought she was a 3, she was like, man, that's the stuff I've been asking myself about, and listening to that podcast not only helped me find myself at the table, but then it gave her some tools to be able to walk out as well. And so all that stuff, I think, it's just my favorite stuff. Also, did we figure out, are you a 3?
No, I am a 9.
Update, guys.
I'm
She is a
reading
9.
an Enneagram book called The Road Back to You,
Great.
and one of the things he talks about is on the diagram. There's your number, and there's a number that's pointing to you and a number that's pointing away from you.
Yeah.
And you take on attributes of those numbers, and one of those is the 3.
Oh,
So
that
that's
makes
why-
sense.
3, 6, 9.
Yeah, that's how I
Okay, so it's just me and B.
so much to the 3s.
Hey.
Cha. Another thing too was being a 3. One of the toughest things to do is to live with an authenticity and live in honesty. So one of my favorite comments was actually on the iTunes podcast, and you could see the ratings, which is awesome because they're all 5 stars.
Hey.
5 stars, thank you.
That's like over 200 ratings, which is
That's
pretty
so
amazing.
cool.
But
It's
one of
still
them
great.
said, "Thank you for your podcast. It challenged me to get honest with
Wow.
myself."
Mm.
And I only know like that challenge is if we're honest here at this table.
Yeah.
And that's even been a stretch for me of
Yep.
like, how honest can I get
Yeah.
without it feeling like I am on staff at a church. People are bringing me out to speak at churches and events and stuff. And so it's kind of like, okay, what if I say something and someone invited me is like, actually, we don't have you back
Yeah.
no more, you know?
And you
like,
forgot you'd said it?
yeah. How honest do I want to get? But even in that, the fact that like other people are feeling challenged to be honest with themselves.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It's
I
so
love that.
cool. It's
Yeah, well, that, and if you're not, look, after I did the one-on-one with Penelope, which was amazing.
She did so good. That was great.
Even after she listened to it, she was like, "Oh man, I want to do another one. I want to get even deeper." Because I'm
Mhm.
like, look, I know there is a fear in sharing too much. There's this fear
Mhm.
because then you become vulnerable, and if people
Mhm.
see your weaknesses or
They
they
use it
see
against
what you
you.
struggle with,
Yeah.
you're afraid that it will get used against you. But at the same time, if the people that brought you out to speak, or if people who listen to you or think you're whatever, if at some point your theology or your authenticity makes them no longer a fan of you, then you want to find out now.
Mhm.
You want to get them out the way now, because as we've seen, the second that we threw this pod out, we knew there was going to be a lot of people that maybe is like, we don't mess with them anymore because
Yeah.
they think way too whatever. But good, because guess what? There was a whole other audience
Yeah.
that there was way more people that were like, yes,
Yeah.
we think like you, than there were people that were like, oh, you guys are bad, you know? So I think what has helped me the most is, look, if I can bear all and be so brutally honest, and I carry this off the mic too, I am brutally honest with everything that I think, feel, but at least people are gonna either love me or hate me because of me. They're either gonna roll with me or not because of me. So
Mhm.
there's never gonna be any like weirdness of like, oh wow, I didn't know he was like that. Nah, fool. You're gonna know exactly how I am, who I am, how I talk, so that you can either become a fan of it or not. So that way I don't have to pretend. I hated pretending that I was this
Mhm.
dude that
That's
was like
really good, yeah.
super like this, in line. I don't really think this or think that. Cause then it was like, man, when somebody finds out that I think this or think that, I'm gonna lose them as a fan. I'm gonna lose them. So now I'm just like, screw that. I need everybody who don't like me right now to go. I need whoever thinks that we ain't cool, y'all can
Right.
leave. There's a proverbial door and you got a butt and I'm kicking you out of it. Legit. Because we don't need it. We only need people that are down or open, who
Yeah.
really do want to find God in new ways and find themselves in that God. And for those who don't even believe in God, I want to hear what you got to say. There's no fear of any type of thought or whether you agree with us or not. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, there's love here. It's available for you. And it's not based on what you believe. It's just based on who you are.
What would be the I think, did we go around? I would love to hear, like, you said your favorite episode.
Yeah.
What was, like, everyone's favorite episode? And then I want to know, like, what was, like, the viewers' favorite episode? Like, what have we had the most, like, either controversy on or, like, listens or... I'm just interested.
Well, there was a toss-up. A lot of people digged the love series, obviously.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yes.
It didn't work for me, but that's fine.
You're still in episode 1.
Your episode
love-
is coming.
the love series
The
was-
apps. It's probably not helping me.
The love series was great. WTF, what the fuck? Are these guys even Christian? That one was actually really good, that people liked. And sex was actually a really big response.
Really?
Especially on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, I had a lot of people hit me up
Why?
about sex.
Do you think it's because people like
people
listening
struggle with
into that
sex.
convo?
Yeah.
People struggle with sex.
Wow.
And nobody talks about it.
I forgot that was one of the ones that I just was saying full names of people by that stage. Sorry about the people in Australia.
No, people struggle with sex, and they actually requested for us to do another one about
part
sex.
2.
So we are going to do a
Oh.
part 2 about sex.
Let's do it.
I'm going to go to Nashville and hopefully interview one of our friends that's into sex and healing, and we're going to talk about
intersex.
it. And it's
Sex
going to, yeah, we're going to get
and
deeper. Look, because season 2, we're going to try to get even more raw, more real, because a lot of you said that's the one thing you appreciate the most is the rawness of it. And I'm going to push my fellow mates as well as anyone who I have on the pod to be as raw as
Yeah.
possible, because again, like B was kind of saying, the more honest we can be, I feel like the deeper we can dive into our own psyche and
Yeah.
kind of explore it, the more I think we'll find you guys.
Yeah.
Because we know, as one thing I always tell my wife, I'm like, the second me and Ann started getting so honest with each other, I was like, man, you're as messed up as I am. Like, we're legit as messed up as each other. Oh my God, this is amazing. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are, you know, just as quote unquote messed up. I say messed up, but it's not really messed up. It's just that we're human and we think things and we feel things that may be adverse to what society or church world says this is normalcy. This is how normal
Oh,
looks.
That's I just remember. Yeah, I had so many comments on the sex podcast. People writing in saying that they had felt they were so alone, even speaking of like their wedding night in
Mhm.
marriage. Like
Oh,
a lot of
wow.
Christian couples that were like, one of my friends that listened to it was like, can you please tell Angela and Manny that was me and my husband on our very first night of our wedding, and we thought we were the only ones. We listened to the podcast, so thank you, because we're not the only ones that are like that went through this. And I think that was why, because people just think they're the only ones that are either experiencing something or going through something or struggling in the way that we started talking about. And the other cool thing is I feel like it's been accountability for me personally, because what I say in the podcast, it's not like I'm just saying it now and being like, hey, see you guys, like it's on record. And I
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
forgetting. So it's taught me so much, even in terms of getting honest and what I really think. And as I'm processing stuff, it's keeping me accountable as well, because it's like, okay, I'm having more like confrontational conversations with people, because as we're talking, I feel like I'm getting stronger in what I believe. And so it's not just about other people finding themselves. I feel like I'm finding myself through this as well. And I think that's a cool sign. And what you're saying, like pushing us further in season 2, because I feel like we've even gotten closer doing this and our relationships are forming even deeper. And so that's fun to be able to be like, B, do you really think that? Are you really going to, really? Okay, cool. And to be able to call each other out in the best way, because what we really want is we all want to be known and we all want to feel known. And so I think that we're just realizing you can't skip the process when it comes to that. There's no short circuit to that except for getting brutally honest. And so I feel like that's maybe what people are resonating with, it because it's something that I'm 100% growing from.
Yeah. It's only going to get better. Season 2 is on its way. We're gonna hit a couple of episodes twice. So we will do a second sex. And I think we will do another lies the church sold you.
Yes.
So
That was
and-
mine and Brandon's favorite.
yeah. There's only a few, you know, it's funny because only a few of my closest friends thought that I was dissing the church. Everyone else understood what we were doing, but we were not dissing the church. We have 2 church employees right now at this table.
That love the church.
So we're not ever dissing the church. It's just like we said, this road of deconstruction of faith that we're all on. We're truly, truly learning and growing, and we're not afraid of not knowing. We're the farthest from people who are saying we got it right and we know exactly what we believe and we know what you should believe. All we know is there's a God that loves us. We do understand that. And at the same time, our call to love one another is high on his priority list as well. Yeah. So we hope that you guys enjoyed season 1. Season 2 will be coming up next. And please, please subscribe. Because look, let me give you a little forecast and vision. I want to get 100,000 downloads by the time the year is out. Okay, so that's going to take y'all sharing with your friends, being active, subscribing, all that good stuff, because we would like to take this show on the road and end up in your city, but we can't do it without your help. Because if y'all don't want us to come, then we ain't coming. I ain't leaving.
Go to my house in Australia.
I ain't leaving my house.
Love us.
So subscribe, share, please share, and tell your friends about it. And I promise you season 2 is going to be amazing. And it's only going to get better from here. So we love you. And we're signing off. This ain't a normal episode, so we ain't going to give the benediction. But
oh, no,
I think you should do
I
the
think you should do
benediction.
it. Why are you
want me to?
holding it back?
Yeah.
well, first of all, we don't have a round table, so this is very weird. I'm just
We're all on
kidding.
a detox before season 2 starts. We all have water today. We're dehydrated. Also, New York does that too.
Hey, so we pray you find a seat at the table. And if you don't, you're always welcome at ours. We love you guys so much.
Cheers.
Peace.